You received a statement yesterday just from the BIU just to clarify an issue, and we said today that we would clarify, give a further clarity as to what transpired yesterday, because I think it's important for the public to know exactly what happened as a result of the meeting that we had with the minister and his team on Wednesday evening. I received a phone call from the Minister of Transport, the Honorable Lawrence Scott, at about 4:15 on Wednesday afternoon. Asked would the BIU be willing to sit down and have to try to reach a resolution and get this matter resolved, and that should not be agreed. So we went to labor and training, had a meeting at about 5:30, and we were there for about 2 hours. We reached an agreement. That agreement was tentative agreement subject to the approval of the membership. That was actually stated to the minister and the management team, because we didn't want them to think, okay, the team has agreed, we automatically got agreement. The BIU has always functioned that way, even during negotiations. We got a tentative agreement subject to the approval of the membership. So you can imagine how frustrated we became once we met with our members yesterday morning and the agreement was ratified. Let me just say it again. The agreement was ratified by the members. And it's kind of like, I'm not sure how where everything went, I guess, went off the rails, for lack of a better definition. But it would appear that, all hell broke loose yesterday. And I have to describe it like that because that's exactly what happened. I know that the BPSU will be putting out a statement to clarify their position on this, so I can't speak for them. But certainly, I think that Brother Bull, as the president of the division, was called into a meeting with the director. Before I knew what was going on, Brother Bull and Brother Red came to see me. I was leaving a meeting at Hamilton Princess, and they came walking into the room. And I knew something was wrong right away. I knew right away something was wrong. So I will let Brother Bull explain to you exactly what happened before I actually look at making a couple of comments about the statement that was put out, because I think it's very important for us to understand exactly what transpired and the reason why it transpired.
Yes, good morning to the media. So basically what happened, myself and Brother Ray were called into a meeting yesterday at approximately around about 1 p.m. to meet with Minister Honorable Lawrence Scott, PS Jasmine Smith, our Director Roger Toward, Assistant Director Janelle Christopher, and Mr. Stovall, who is our Human Resource Manager. At that time, we were told that the matter that had taken place from Wednesday night, the tentative agreement that was agreed upon between the BIU and the Bermuda government, had been taken off the table, and that the matter was going to be taken to a tribunal. And we asked the question why, and Mr. Toward went through his sections, and then at the end of this, he did mention as well that it was said because the operations managers and supervisors did not want to do the winter rosters. We told him at that time that we have to take this back to Brother Chris because we couldn't answer at that moment of anything that had taken place. Brother Beard and myself went down to Hamilton Princess to find Brother Chris, and we did let him know of what the director had told us at that meeting.
So we all arrived back here at the BIU. I immediately called the minister on the telephone. The minister had his PS sitting with him. This PS also got Mr. Toward on the telephone. And what the minister has said to us is that the agreement that was reached has to be terminated. I said to the minister, that agreement was ratified by the membership, and I'm sorry, but you can't terminate it. Once it was ratified, Mr. Toward went on to say, I think he was on the call in respect, because I don't think he's in the minister's office, to say that because the BPSU supervisors didn't agree, then we have an issue. Let's just understand there are two unions up at DPT. There's the BIU and there's the BPSU. We have separate agreements. This issue on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday was about an impasse that was between the BIU, and the management team at DPT. Respectfully, it had absolutely nothing to do with the supervisors. Didn't. It was our members went to rosters, or the operators went to rosters, because we do have a few members up there that are not union members. So that was the work that we was asking for to be posted. They went to work. So it's kind of interesting when the statement, and I'm just looking at the statement that was put out yesterday evening. A government spokesperson said, Minister of Transport, the Honorable Lawrence Scott, confirmed that an agreement had been reached with the Bermuda Industrial Union in an ongoing dispute over scheduling rosters. However, a failure by the BPS to support the agreement means the issue is not yet resolved. Let's just be clear. On Wednesday evening, when we got the agreement and we made it clear, it's got to go to our members for ratification. They never said at that meeting that we also got to go to the BPSU supervisor and have a conversation with them about this agreement. That was never said on Wednesday night. And if that was their intention, and if they knew that it had to be done and they dropped the ball, you can't blame the BPSU for that, and you can't blame BIU for that. Because even if we'd have got a call that morning when we was presented to our members, just want to give you a heads up, one now got to take this agreement to the supervisor this morning. They still have some time to contact us. No one contacted us about the BPSU and the need for them to ratify the agreement that we've reached. The supervisors. So it's kind of interesting that we now see that the Minister of Labor, the BIU, and this is the minister's, it's all in quotes, so it's got to be his comments. The BIU and DPT worked hard to reach this point, but the matter was still unresolved. In accordance with Section 70 of the Act, I have referred to the dispute for settlement. What dispute? It was ratified. There's no dispute. If there's any dispute that's going to come up now, and like I said, the BPSU is going to put out a statement to clarify their position. So if there's any dispute right now, it's going to be between the department now and BPSU. Because the BIU membership ratified an agreement, the dispute was finished. Our members went to sign on for work. If we still have a dispute, they won't be signing on for work. The Minister of Labor, this is my opinion, I think that, and I said this to the Minister of Transport, the minister can refer this to a tribunal because the BIU and DPT have no more dispute. It was resolved. The tentative agreement on Wednesday night, ratification on Thursday morning, the dispute is over. So how are you now telling me the BIU is getting a letter saying that this matter has now been referred to arbitration between the management and the BIU? Somebody's got this all wrong. The BIU has not spoken to the Minister of Labor. Section 70 of the current act clearly states where the minister receives a report from the manager pursuant to Section 69(1)(b, he shall, after taking any steps which he seem to be to him to promote a settlement. What has he done to promote a settlement? So if the management team said to the minister, well, still got an issue now, this is the issue, the BIU has not spoken to the minister. And let's just be clear. I spoke to the Premier of the country. I told the Premier of the country I left 2 voice messages for the minister on 2 separate cell phones. My team was with me in my office when I spoke to the Premier. That was 3:45 yesterday afternoon. It's now 11:20 the next day. I have not heard not one word from the Minister of Labor. Not one word. This clearly states the minister should try to resolve the issue, reach a settlement before it's referred to arbitration. So if he got a complaint from the management team that was still got an impasse, his obligation was to reach out to the union. Mr. Farbert, can you please tell me what the BIU's position is on this matter? But no, we got a referral to arbitration and thinking that your members got to go back to work, and if it's done, they're breaking the law. It's not the way how this works. Industrial relations are supposed to be, it's about communication and making sure we understand what the parties' positions are. And that includes the management's position and also the union's position. With that, I'll entertain any questions you might have.
Can you give us any details about this proposed agreement or agreed agreement between the union and the government?
Well, all I can say to you is that it was agreed that The winter rosters will be posted as of the 23rd of August. And it was also agreed that we will put together a team of the senior operators that will come up with some proposed changes to the summer rosters. Those changes will be presented to the membership because there's a 21-day pick that has to go on. So even though the new rosters, the winter rosters are going to be posted on the 23rd of August, they're not due to come into effect to September 13th. So in that 21-day period, the 5 members that we selected as senior members will look at those 93 summer rosters and see how they can be tweaked, and then you give them to the membership. Membership say either yes or no. And that was basically what we agreed to at the meeting, at that session. We also agreed that, 1 month after that starts on September the 13th, so on October the 13th, if we have no agreement on any revision of those summer rosters, then we'll revert back to the summer rosters until May 31st of next year. March 31st of next year. Brother Bull was right, March 31st, which is the end of the government's fiscal period. Initially, the minister wanted to have these rosters, summer rosters, until September 2022. He wrote it back down to the end of March. That was the agreement, most of the agreement.
Now, the government has said previously that this was an example of a no work, no pay policy.
Yeah.
Obviously, can you give us any update on that? I mean,
Yeah.
certainly yesterday, all indications were that the drivers were ready to return to work, so that certainly could.
Well, always when we have industrial disputes, a lot depends on, who created the problem. We understand that, if workers withdraw their service, then they normally don't get paid. But if the situation was created by the management team, the union actually is kind of like justified to go in and try to at least mitigate some pay. So I'll be able to get them all the pay or none of the pay or whatever have you. All I can tell you is that I'm not going to tell you the amount of pay they got. All I can tell you there was an agreement on pay. And the workers did not lose 3 days' pay. That's what I can say to you.
Now, obviously, you mentioned that there's a lack of communication recently between yourself and the Minister of Labor. How frustrating is it to have someone who was once a union president and this lack of communication?
Well, I think everybody has to realize that we still have the elephant in the room of Section 57 of the 2021, labor trade union labor relations and consolidated act of 2021. We still have that issue in front of us, right? And I think ever since that we've had this disagreement over this, it seems like the relationship has become strained. As I said to the media, I think on June 6th or June 7th, we had a 3-hour meeting in this very hall with the Premier and the Minister of Labor about Section 57. And they left a 3-hour meeting talking to Labor, and the position on Section 57 has not changed. I think our main concern with Section 57 is a non-union member who's only contributing 50% to the union having a right to vote in a ballot for decertification. The union has conceded. We have conceded that if somebody's going to give the union 100% contribution, they should have a right to vote in a ballot for decertification. We have no issue with changing our position on that because somebody's giving you 100% contribution. We cannot justify how somebody's giving you 50% and you're going to give them a full vote. That's just to us just doesn't seem right. Okay. Any further questions?
This issue that you're facing today, obviously the strike began with the BIU.
Yes.
But now you're indicating that it's now whatever's happening is now being driven by some disagreement between the BPSU and the BIU
I don't,
the BT.
respectfully, I don't know if it's a disagreement. I'm just telling you where we sit. Our issue has been resolved.
Well, if your issue has been resolved and now BPSU has an issue, was the BPSU riding the BIU's horse for the last 4 days?
Well, remember now, I wouldn't say they were riding our horse. They are the supervisory department of DPT. So they're there to make sure that, okay, our members sign on, they tell them which bus to take. Basically that's what they are, the line supervisor. So basically, and I'll tell you, we had a meeting with the BPSU yesterday evening. I can tell you that much. We had a meeting with the General Secretary, along with one of their executive officers. as well as 4 supervisors, right here in Dr. Gordon Hall last night for 2 hours. I'm not at liberty to tell you everything we discussed. I think the BPSU, once the press statement is released, should clarify some things for you.
Okay.
Right?
Vice President of the Bus Division, Antoine Wade, said on Tuesday's press conference that
Right.
what they were looking for was to start the winter schedules and then have the discussion. Did you essentially win?
Yeah, absolutely.
The
Well,
position you wanted, but with the proviso that by October 13th you had to come to some kind of agreement.
Agreement, that's correct. That's correct. Yeah.
And the Transport Minister did say that the changes to the schedule may only be for a year while the new resources are brought in. Are those changes more acceptable to the BIU if it is only a temporary measure?
Well, ultimately, I think that's the way it was presented to the membership yesterday. I think that if the parties, or if we're going to look at the summer rosters and making some kind of change to them, if we're not going to do that in good faith, then we shouldn't begin the process. I think the members that we selected are going to go to the table in good faith, look at those 93 rosters, make whatever recommended changes to this 93 rosters, whether they recommended change one of them, half of them, all of them, that remains, they're the experts. They'll be able to know whether they can change roster number 1 or roster number 93. And my only concern, as I told the minister, as I told the director, I don't think that you should tell us we're going to fail before we fail. I think the experience that we have over there with operators with anywhere between 15 to 30 years service, that's going to be looking at these rosters. So they have very intricate knowledge about the roster and how the rosters work. And my faith is in them to come up with something that I think, whilst maybe 100% of the membership may not agree, I think we'll be able to get it in line where we can get 60 or 70% of the members to agree to some revision of those rosters.
Now, you said on Tuesday that government has never asked you to change your winter pay, but DPT Director Roger Todd did indicate also on Tuesday that this had been brought to the table in some fashion last year, and one of the reasons that government did not want to back down on this is because they yielded last year to what the union wanted and ended up still with cancellations, downtime, and $1 million spent on minibuses.
Right.
Can you comment on that?
Well, certainly I can. But look at what the director said in his press conference and what he said to us last year. The department got 2 main issues, and it could be 3, but I'm picking 2. 1, they don't have enough buses. Why? They're telling you that for the summer rosters, which is 93, they have about maybe 62, maybe 64 buses. That's what they need to run those 93 rosters effectively. And for the winter rosters, which is 104 rosters, they need about 88 buses for that. If you are buying buses, 10 buses a year for almost 7 or 8 years, and then you have a hiatus of about 9 years where you buy not 1 bus, you're that far behind the 8 pole. So that resource, as far as providing, make sure you don't have cancellations, daily cancellations, whether it's 1 or whether it's 20 or 30, you're going to make sure you're going to have enough buses to provide the service. Secondly, and most important, is that you got to have enough operators. I asked the question to the management team on Wednesday, how many operators did we have in 2014? And I've got the employee handbook that I'm looking at on page 37. Somebody said 90-something, somebody said 100. I asked one of the supervisors yesterday, he said 130. In 2014, we had 149 operators at DPT. 149. One now got less than 100. You're down almost 50 or 60 operators and thinking you're going to provide the service you need to provide? Which dreamland everybody living in? So Mr. Todd has got to come to reality. You're trying to fix something that's really not fixable until you get the buses and the people there.
But from him, the indication he made is part of the point of going to this winter roster for the year was to allow for that time to improve their recruitment, and bring in these buses
Okay.
whilst still trying to provide a full service with the limited resources we have.
Okay,
Comment on that.
point taken. So let's go back to